Welcome back to the Joe Mack podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Very happy to be with Dr. Wanda Brockington. She is a retired communications professor who retired from Norfolk State University. You said the party was 1 year ago today. Is that right?
It was. Absolutely. It was a year ago today.
A year ago today. And I can't even begin to mention how much value I've gotten out of the things that you've shared with me over the years. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. And I'm so happy to be with you today. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Obviously, you know, we're under some kind of strenuous times at the moment for most people. There's a lot of restrictions at the moment. You're currently in Chesapeake, Virginia. Is that right?
I am, yes. And we are under lock and key, so to speak, until June 10th. Our governor has ours, I think, extends a little bit further than some of the other lockdowns. And it could be because our governor is a medical doctor. I'm not sure. Maybe he has some insight that the rest of us don't have. But I think it may go longer than that. But for right now, June 10th is the magic day.
Okay. And you said recently you attended a party online.
Yeah. Yes. You know, like everybody else, I've had to curtail my social life. And, you know, I never realized what a privilege it was just to be able to pick up and go to lunch, you know, on a whim, or to go out to dinner and sit down and order a nice meal and have somebody bring it to you and enjoy it. And now that we no longer have the ability to do those things, I'm thinking, oh my God, I took all of that for granted. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Just the ability to you know, I'm sitting around and I say, oh, I wonder if Macy's has any new clothes that I need. And I can't pop in my car and go see. And so it's been a real transition in terms of not just behavior, but even your actual thinking. So anyway, I had not, all my meetings, all my conferences. As a matter of fact, my sister and I had tickets to see Bruno Mars in Las Vegas, April 23rd. And I think I knew probably late in February that we were not going to make it. And of course, first Bruno Mars canceled, and then Las Vegas shut down, and then I canceled the airline tickets. And so everything is just gone, you know, all of these. I'm not unhappy about missing meetings. Not at all. I could live forever without another meeting. But what I do miss is the ability to see and talk with the people who were coming to those meetings. And I have to tell you, on behalf of all of the folk from the South, I miss hugging people. I miss it. I was not much of a handshaker, but I am a hugger. And of course, you know, with social distancing, can't do it. And so it's very hard to see a family member or to see a loved one. My son came over to see me, and he stood across the room. You know, it's just not natural. Mm-hmm. And so, like everybody else, I'm struggling with that. But 5 or 6 of us got together yesterday on Zoom, and we had a pajama fashion show. And we talked about what the virus doing to us, you know, our concerns and our fears. And then we talked about some positive things, and we laughed and we joked. And, you know, I had one friend who had on some really beautiful pajamas, but since she can't get to the hairdresser, she had on a gigantic floppy hat and 5-inch heels. And I said, oh my God, who in the world wears heels, stilettos with pajamas? That's crazy. So anyway, it was fun. It was an escape from reality for a couple of hours, and I'm sure we'll do it again. It was lovely. Today I had a meeting online, a virtual meeting, and there probably were 150 people on there, and it actually worked. I didn't say a whole lot. You know, of course, the broadband was probably screaming and crying. We had a couple of little glitches, but it is possible to continue your life just in a different way. But for me, it just doesn't really replace the face-to-face communication. You know, I'm very big on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you're making the best of it.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
And, you know,
it takes a lot of mental adjustment and a lot of prayer.
The things that you said, you know, going out to get a nice meal, taking that for granted, just the ability to, like you said, go to Macy's. I know you're a very fashionable person.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I miss shopping. Yeah. I miss shopping. I really do. Of course, there's online.
Yeah.
But you can get carried away with that, and it's not the same as touching it and feeling the fabric and kind of holding it up in front of you to see if you like how it looks or how the color looks on you. When you order online, then it gets here, and then you make a decision. You either keep it or you send it back. So you accomplish the same thing, but it's just different. And so I think there's probably going to be more and more of that. My fear is that a lot of these stores, a lot of the places, restaurants and stores, I'm afraid they're not going to come back. I'm afraid they're not going to survive. And if they do survive, it may only be in an online situation. So, you know, as a matter of fact, before this virus hit, some of the local malls were really struggling. I know you remember MacArthur Mall in downtown Norfolk, which was something of an elite mall. I mean, they had Nordstrom's and they had some of your higher tier stores, but Nordstrom's left. Several of the anchor stores left, and it was almost a ghost town. So I'm not sure whether that mall can even come back. I don't know if they have enough stores left to keep it going. So, like everybody else, I'm concerned about the economic situation too. That's going to be critical to not just people's survival. It's not whether or not you can survive, but what kind of emotional state are you going to be in? I think there are going to be a lot of people who need mental counseling in terms of depression, and you know, it's just, this thing has far-reaching implications. It's more than just a health concern; it's a life concern.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of surprising to hear about MacArthur Mall. I mean, you figured that's always going to be. And then, well, like you said, I mean, time's going to tell. We're gonna find out as far as the economic impact for sure.
Yeah.
And so you know, I mean, I appreciate you sharing those things with me, and I'm excited to. We were chatting a little bit before we began recording, and we were discussing, I mean, your career was, now when you retired, what was your actual title? What was your job title at Norfolk State University?
Oh, associate professor.
Associate professor. What does that what does that entail, and how would you describe that position and those responsibilities?
Oh, well, the title, well, the word professor is both a rank and a title.
Okay.
And so you achieve the rank of professor by years of service and by promotion and so forth. And so I retired as an associate professor, which is a senior rank. And I also had the privilege of serving as the general manager of the radio station for, I think, 11 and a half years.
Wow.
And I was department head for over 11 years, which is a little bit unusual. They changed the rules some years ago that department heads had to be nominated by their peers, and it was for a 3-year term. And so I did my first term, and they said, oh, well, okay, you need to do it again. And I really think nobody else wanted to do it. That was probably a part of it. So I did the second 3 years. And then they changed the rules so I could stay in there another 3 years. And then I said, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
But at the time, we were searching for a chair, and someone took the position, and then, no, we thought somebody was going to take the position, and then there was some disagreement with the contract, and so the job was open, and I ended up coming back for a short period of time just to stand in the gap until they brought somebody else in. But it was very rewarding. I have to say, I was a professor for a long time, 40 years altogether. I was there from 1979 to 2019. But I mean, all 40 years were rewarding. And I wasn't sure that I was going to enjoy being department head because it's a whole lot of responsibilities, a whole lot of meetings, a whole lot of reports. And literally, you are the face of the department. So every time there's a function, you have to be there, and you represent the entire department. It's quite something, not just the department, but you represent all of Norfolk State. And so it's important that you carry yourself a certain way, that you, I always felt it was important to be enthusiastic about what it is you do. I mean, I was the first face that a potential student came into contact with. I was the first face that a nervous parent saw when they brought their child on campus for the first time. And so not only did I represent the department, but I needed to help the parents make that transition from their child being a high school senior to becoming, first step in becoming an adult. And so I took that very seriously. But more importantly, I had an opportunity as department head to guide the vision of the department. What is it that I want mass communications and journalism to represent to people who are interested in coming here, and to the community and the world at large? And so that was, I thought, a very important task too. And the first thing I set about doing was telling the story of our graduates. We have some phenomenal graduates, and I just couldn't believe how few people realized. If you take a look at some of the programs at Norfolk State, or some of the literature or so forth, you hear the same names over and over again, those who are extremely well-known, the celebrities. We have several celebrities, high-profile celebrities, but there's so many other heroes who are out there who are doing incredible things, who are quiet people, but they have achieved excellence in so many ways. We have a young lady who's been at ESPN for years, and I remember her well. She was not only in my classes, but she was my advisee, and she was very quiet. But this young lady has won 3 Emmys in sports production, and I have tried for years to get her to come to Norfolk State and participate in MCJR week. Mm-hmm. And she said, Brockington, I can't do that because I don't talk. Mm-hmm. And she said, remember, I almost failed your class because I couldn't get up and do an oral report. And I said, okay, well, I don't want to force her to come, but golly, she's got so much talent and so much skill and so much that she could be sharing. We've got people in the film industry and in television and radio and sales and marketing and even in areas that nobody would think of. We've got people, we have a guy who's an airline pilot. What does communications have to do with that? Everything. Mm-hmm. Because it is, in my opinion, the most versatile degree that you could ever have. What can't you do with it? Mm-hmm. We have a husband and wife. Both of them came through the department, and he was a computer whiz before we even knew what computers were. Back in '99. I mean, we didn't. Well, and he has created, and managed 3 or 4 different computer companies. He was just named Small Business Entrepreneur of the Year. Mm-hmm. And I went to see him speak when he was presented that award. And I learned a lot from his presentation. I learned so much about the business part of it. But anyway, his wife also had a degree in communications, and she started out in public relations at Disney World. And somewhere along the line, you know, her mission in life, her vision, her passion changed, as it does for a lot of people. And she repurposed her career, and she is now a clinical psychologist. And so it just says to me that if you desire something, that communications background gives you the skill sets that you need to transition anywhere else you want to go. I have a guy who got tired of sales. It was just too grueling. And now he owns a cigar company in Atlanta. So, I mean, I can't even tell you the rewards that I have gotten from being at Norfolk State. It's not just, it wasn't in the paycheck. Good God, it was never in the paycheck. But to see incoming freshmen, traditional students coming out of high school, and they were so young and so immature and so silly and just had no idea what life was going to be about, and to watch them change and grow into productive citizens and achieving so many milestones in our industry and other industries. And now I see them, my Lord, they've all got husbands and wives and children, and now the children are in college. And I said, oh, I remember when you were sitting in my class asleep. But it's and I'll tell you, on the anniversary of that retirement celebration, so many of them came back from California, from Connecticut, from Georgia, from all over the country. And the things they said, I can't even tell you what it meant to me. It was just so touching and so moving. And all the people around me were crying. And they said, why aren't you crying? I said, well, I mean, I feel it. I feel it deeply. But, you know, they mean the world to me, and they know that. And so it was such a rewarding time. I wouldn't trade those 40 years for anything. And I have discovered that if you can touch a life in a positive way, then your life has been worth living.
Wow. So that's wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's a lot. You know, some things that stood out, I mean, that you just shared was your vision was kind of how can we impact and affect the community at large, looking at the bigger picture rather than just at the school.
Right. Yeah. I actually, while I was chair, I thought it was important to give back to the community. And not just, I mean, we should be about more than just recruiting students and just promoting Norfolk State. And so I created a boot camp, a summer boot camp with the Urban League, the Urban League of Hampton Roads. And during the summer, they have a summer program, and they have children from, I believe, 12 to 18 who come to their facilities, and they have, you know, different activities and so forth. And so I met with the director, the CEO of the Urban League, and the woman who runs the activities and programs for them. And I said, why can't we do a boot camp? And so you know what? I take that back. We did do the boot camp, but the first thing that happened was they wanted to do a one-day communications awareness workshop, and they did it at Old Dominion. And I said, why are you doing it at Old Dominion? Because they don't have a communications program. I said, for God's sake, we have the TV studio over here. Mm-hmm. And so I met with them, and that's when I said, you need to come to Norfolk State. And so it was a week. It was a week of boot camp. And they would come on campus from 9 to 3. And I tried to give them a little taste of what our industry offers. So they did a little bit of newspaper writing, journalism. They did radio, took them over to the station, and Doug let them record some PSAs. They wrote them, created them, and then recorded them. And took them to the TV studio, and Lateef let them work camera and, direct and do all of those things. And they actually produced a game show. And so then we put those 2 items on CD, and they were able to take it home with them. And so the parents, we involved the parents. They came on the last day. We took them also to Channel 3 to the newscast at noon. And so it was a really comprehensive look at communications, as much as we could cram in for 4 days. And so that was one thing that we did. And we also have, I started, it started as the 30th anniversary of the department. And it was a week of activities. And we ended up calling it MCJR Week. And we are now in the 20th year of that. And it's open to the public. Everything we do is open to the public, although it's primarily geared towards mass communications and journalism majors. The topics that we talk about are germane to people in any discipline. And so it's always been open to the public. And so I see that also as giving back to the community. So, yeah, I thought it was important to do that. You can't always take. You have to give. Wow. And some of those students who came through the boot camp, a couple of them actually did come to Norfolk State. And then a couple of others went to other schools, but they all went into communication. So I feel like we did a good thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm glad that you brought up the TV studio. For those who aren't familiar with Norfolk State and the communications program, how would you describe it? How would you describe those resources that are available and the program itself? I mean, how would you describe that to somebody who's not familiar with it?
Well, I guess I'll start with the facilities first.
And you've seen, and you were there, not to interrupt, but you were there, again, 40 years of service, 1970. I know the radio station began in 1980.
Right, yeah. I was there.
So if you could kind of take us chronologically through the changes that you've seen in the communications department too, that'd be. Yeah.
Well, I think I would start with facilities.
Okay.
It was always my hope when I was department head that I could get all of the entities in the same building at the same time. It hasn't been possible because the Spartan Echo, the school newspaper, actually doesn't fall under our department. It actually falls under student activities.
Okay.
However, most of the reporters and the editors, I won't say most, but many of them come from the journalism area. So they're housed in the student center. The radio station and the department for many, many years were side by side in Madison Hall on that first floor. And it was so exciting. I was talking about this. They just had the 40th anniversary of the radio station last month. And someone interviewed me for that. And I was talking about during that interview how exciting it was to have the radio station and the TV studio side by side. It was so exciting. It was something going on all the time. And people, I think other students from other disciplines, because let's face it, everybody has to take English courses. And the English department is also housed in Madison Hall. So all the students at one time or another had to come through Madison Hall. And I used to get so tickled. They would come through and they would see our students dashing out in the hallway and running down the hall trying to get somewhere on time because, time is money. And they said, what's going on in there? And it just was always something. And then, of course, the station was always playing music. And we had different kinds of formats. You know, one time early on, we had an all jazz format. And then through the years, the format has changed. But one thing about it, a lot of the students who came through WNSB and, you know, honed their skills on radio, have taken their careers to other places. You know, we have a lot of news reporters and anchors who started in radio. And so it was a great place to learn teamwork, to learn production, to learn broadcasting. You know, radio is its own world, as you know, and it's somewhat different from television. But at any rate, we had to move out of Madison Hall because it was had to be renovated. And so then the faculty got scattered all over campus. The radio station moved to Spartan Station, which is on one end of the campus. And then the television studio was relocated to Bowser Hall, which is on the other end of campus. And so we were scattered all over the place. It was a mess. And then eventually we came back to Madison Hall. And as I said, they had refurbished, but since the radio station already had established their facilities in Spartan Station, they stayed there. And the faculty and the TV, well, actually the TV studio stayed where it was. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that the entire department moved into Brown Hall. Oh my goodness, I can't even tell you. It's amazing. The facilities are amazing. The state of the art. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But in terms of the radio station, now that we are out of Madison Hall, those facilities have been, well, they are refurbished, and the radio station is going to move back into Madison Hall with, you know, basically a new environment.
Wow.
And so, you know, they come full circle. They started in Madison, and here they are going back into Madison. I tried my best when we were working on the floor plans and the design of Brown Hall. I was still chair then. And I talked to the provost just all day long. I said, you got to put the radio station in here with us. And she just refused to do it. And so, you know, I wasn't able to get everybody in there, but the TV studio is amazing. It literally is state of the art. And when the students come back for homecoming, I deliberately have the reception somewhere in the building so that they have a chance to visit the facilities. And they came out saying, "Oh my God, why didn't you have this when I was here?" You know, that's how it goes. But one of them did make a suggestion that I've really been pushing. I'm not there anymore, but when anybody will listen to my still suggestions, he said, "Why don't you have a refresher course for those of us who came through the program, but we'd like to retrain. We'd like to learn how to operate this and show us how to do that." And I said, "Yeah, but I haven't been able to get the chair dean to sign on that." I mean, we could do it internally. It's not a big deal, but, you know, you have the proper chance. So,
wow.
But I'm telling you, the students who now, they are really in on the best out there. And it's just phenomenal. They have so many activities. They create content, or we have 2 channels broadcast on campus, and they're always in need of content. And of course, the students are still doing videotaping and covering the sports events, the football and basketball games. They're still broadcasting in terms of calling the games and that kind of thing. So everything is alive well at Norfolk. And what I would say to the current students or people who are considering careers, potential students, there's just really nothing like communications. The world is turning, on communications. We're 24/7. It never stops, and there's always a need for content. And there's no such thing as not a need for what you do. It may be on a different platform. Some of our people have had to learn how to do digital things, and they've had to move to a different platform. The basics are still information. It's just the delivery and the mode of delivery is different. Mm-hmm. So it's an extremely viable degree to have, mm-hmm. versatile and viable, and do with it whatever you want. I mean, the world is yours. So I think, I was going to say this is the greatest degree ever.
Mm. Wow. Always a need for content. I agree with you 100%. And yes, very versatile degree. Obviously, you can pretty much do anything with it. Communications is needed everywhere. So that's definitely. Now, you were talking about state-of-the-art facilities. How do you feel, like, for people that aren't even familiar with Norfolk State, I mean, how do you feel Norfolk State University stacks up against other colleges? How would you compare it to other colleges and universities within Virginia and across the country?
Well, I think, first of all, our program is accredited.
Okay.
And that means, for people who don't know, our governing body is the Association for Education in Mass Communications and Journalism. And they have a very, very rigorous accrediting process. They look at everything. They look at your facilities. They look at your syllabi. They look at the credentials of the professors. They look at every possible aspect of the program to see what you're offering, whether or not it's needed in today's society, how you're delivering it, what kind of scholarships or opportunities are available, what resources do you have in terms of library, computer labs. I mean, literally, they check everything. Mm-hmm. There are 4 universities in Virginia that have accreditation, and we are one of those 4. Oh. There are only 100, and I might be off in my numbers because I haven't been to those meetings in a couple of years, but I'll say at the last meeting that I attended, in this entire country, there are only 132 accredited communications programs. Wow. When you consider all of the universities and colleges out there, that is really saying something. Mm. So our program is highly thought of. Coming out of an accredited program is a plus because it means that you've been scrutinized and you've gone through a rigorous process. And so it says that your courses are what's needed, that your professors are the right people to be teaching, and that kind of thing. Norfolk State offers the BCU perspective. We are an historically Black college and university. And one of the things that people don't know about HBCUs, I guess the general public, we spend a lot of time nurturing. It is what we do. And I came out of both experiences, really. I went to the University of Arizona when I graduated from high school, and I was there for 3 years. Wow. And it was a huge university. At that time, 30,000 students. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that I was in a lecture hall with 400 students. And they didn't really take roll. You just were assigned a seat. And so anything or anybody could have been in the seat. And they would have said, Wanda is here. And so I never got to talk to any of the professors. A lot of the courses were taught by graduate assistants and teaching assistants and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I was not mature enough. I'm not ashamed to talk about it because it helped me grow into the person that I became. But I was not mature enough for that. You know, some people come out and they do really well. I just wasn't ready for that. I needed more personal and one-on-one contact. So anyway, I stayed there for a couple of years, and then I transferred back home. And I went to North Carolina Central University, which is also an HBCU. And my teachers paid attention to me. You know, I ran into a professor in the post office, and she said, excuse me, you cut my class this morning. I said, you knew? I mean, I had never had that experience. And she knew my name. She said, Miss Goins. I said, what? And so from that point on, I started taking it seriously. I said, oh, they really care what happens to me. And so I kind of made up my mind. I flourished there. I went from being just a so-so student to graduating with honors and all that. And I didn't suddenly get smart. I was just applying myself, which I didn't do at the University of Arizona. I was motivated to do well, and I wanted to achieve. And that made all the difference in the world. And I promised myself, and you know what? I never wanted to be a teacher. Never. That was the last thing. My mother was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. And I said, Lord, deliver me from blackboards and from putting up, cutting out stuff from construction paper. I don't want any part of that. But you know what? Sometimes your steps are ordered. And I moved here. I got married. My husband was stationed here in Norfolk. That's how I got here. And the only place I ever went looking for a job was Norfolk State. Now, I can't explain that to you. I don't know why. I started in the English department, and they said, because my undergrad degree is in English. And they said, oh, no, with your credentials, you need to go downstairs to see Dr. Edgerton in the mass comm department. He hired me on the spot the first day he saw me. And as a matter of fact, I had actually taken a job as dean of one of the dorms, dean of students or something. And I canceled that. And so I went into the classroom, and it turned out to be my passion. It turned out to be exactly what I was meant to do. It turned out to be my calling. But I promised myself that I was going to give back to these students what was given to me, and that was that nurturing experience. And so I cared about them, not just as students. They weren't just individuals that sat in seats in my classroom. They were people. They meant something to me. And I got to the point where I knew something about them. I knew that this one had a brother that lived here, and this one, and the family stories. Oh my Lord, you have no idea how many students are struggling. They have parents with cancer, some are homeless, or have they came from really bad neighborhoods and they're afraid to go back. And so in the process of learning all that, you begin to understand that affects their performance in your classes. And so that was what shaped me. That was what shaped me, my time at North Carolina Central and the transition that I made. And so when I see students now who are not motivated, I recognize it because I have been there. And so I know that it's something that only they can change. But I think once I recognized it, I tried to help them get to that place where they could make that change. And so far, I've been pretty successful with that.
I guess so. Evidently. Wow. Yeah, because that was going to be one of my questions. What do you attribute your success to? But it sounds like you said, you've been there before. You've been in those shoes where you were at a big university for a number of years. You felt like it wasn't very personable. Then you made the shift from University of Arizona to North Carolina Central, and that's where you experienced that closer attention than you had previously. and kind of that nurturing element that was missing, and that's what you wanted to carry on when you decided to come on board with Norfolk State. Sounds like.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Very good. That's pretty incredible. What is there anything else that you attribute your success to?
The support of my family. My husband, was military for 21 years, but he supported me without question. All of the years that I was at Norfolk State, all 40 of them. But I was more or less a single mom because he was out on med cruises and gone for long periods at a time. And so I would have to say the support of my husband, the support of my family, both my family in North Carolina and his family in South Carolina. And I developed a really close network of friends here. And, they support me still. So no one can go through this life and make it alone. You just can't. And so I've been very blessed in every way possible. Had great co-workers. I've had great friends. And, let me say something about that. I remember when I first started working at Norfolk State, we would have faculty meetings and large faculty meetings, not just departmental ones, but 2 or 3 times a year, the entire Norfolk State faculty would meet. And the mass comm department would always sit together, literally sit together. And so people from other departments used to come up to us and say, "Why are y'all sitting?" And I said, "Because we like each other." I mean, we were friends. We weren't just colleagues. We were friends. And I'll tell you the truth, that friendship and respect, even if we disagree, we do so in a disagreeable manner, if you know what I mean. We disagree, but it was always professional and courtesy. But that family feel ended to our students. Call them my and some of them even call me mama. I get Mother's Day greetings. So I think the friendship and kinship that we felt as a faculty poured over them. And so we literally, and even there was a family, the radio station had its family, and the Spartan Echo, their own dynamic, and then the students who work with Latif and who work in the studio and create content TV station, they have their own chemistry and their own bond, but we all come together as one. We're all journalists. So I never did believe in the competition. We had several student organizations. We had the Mass Comm Student Association. We had NAVCHA, National Association of Black Journalists. So, sometimes there was a little competition, NBS in particular, they like fundraisers and raise everybody else. But I said, listen, y'all, we're all still one family. So, let's keep this friendly. So I has helped us over the years. We have had a family attitude. Now, I think some of that is changing as we our presidents, our provosts, our that family feeling is gone. We had one president, I won't say who, but that particular president ran us like we were a corporation, like we were a business. And I never did like that, because the feeling was our products are human. They have feelings, they have needs. And so I don't think that you can run a university a business. I mean, in a literal way, it is a business.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't run it the same way you would a computer company. You just can't.
Wow. Yeah.
I think being and staying has really kept us. We were. Our department was the envy of the campus. Now our numbers have shrunk. Wow. When I started there, if you can imagine this, we had 600 majors.
Wow.
We had 600 mass comm majors. It was amazing. Journalism was just strictly mass comm. And I remember being in a classroom and having 99 students in that one class. What in the world? But over the years, you know, the enrollment of the school has come down some. So it's a little more comfortable now. The faculty was always way outnumbered. And we need a new faculty. We need 2 faculty, as a matter of fact. But, you know, position education, we're good though.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the products are human. You know, the products are human, and that's something that is definitely the truth. You know, and I remember going through the program myself. Obviously, all I wanted to do was get into radio. And this was when I was right out of my military service, and I got so much more out of the experience that I had. And I just remember everybody from that department just being really top notch, and I was really surprised by that. And I got so much out of it. You know, I got so much out of it, and I'm definitely a living testament to that. And is there any?
You know why that, Joe?
What's that?
So you know why this?
Why is that?
Part of it is you were a non-traditional student, and so you came, on a more mature footing than a typical high school senior. And so I find that the non-traditional students generally get more experience because they've been out there in the world and they know what's waiting for them. So I think that was a plus for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'll never forget the extra things that you did to ensure our success, like actually taking us on trips to New York City to see how professionals in radio, TV broadcasting in the @1 market were making a living, how they were becoming successful, and seeing Spike Lee do his thing at what was it, New York University. I mean, seeing people that have already become successful, seeing both sides of the coin was just an unbelievable experience. Me and Lamont were just catching up about that earlier this week too, and just such an eye opener. And I'm just so happy that we're able to really catch up about this and really kind of document, the contributions and the accomplishments that you've made.
Well, thank you. That New York trip was really special, and it went on for 32 years. We haven't been in a couple of years, so I do hope that. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the, this virus, but there was some discussion about starting the trip again in the fall. So eventually, they and do that because it's so important. To not just to see the industry from the inside, but to navigate New York City was an eye-opening experience for a lot of them because they had never left Virginia. Mm-hmm. And so it turned out to be a really amazing experience and a life-altering experience. So I keep my fingers crossed that they will be able to go back to doing the New York trip annually.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss before we wrap things up? I mean, we've covered so much. Anything else that you wanted to?
No, I think we've covered it all. I think that we're gonna all have to learn to navigate a new reality when it is over. I'm not sure what the new world will look like when we're able to come our homes again. And one thing's for sure, nobody who will be untouched by this. Absolutely no one. So, I pray for all people, for all of us, who are experiencing this thing. And we're going to be fine. We'll go through a period of adjustment. There'll be a new, but we'll. You there?
Yes, I'm here now. You were kind of breaking up in that last part.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the Wi-Fi connection, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So just to recap what you just shared with us, you're moving forward. I mean, what is only time's going to tell, obviously. Are you still with me? You can see me. I can't see you very well.
I know. Well, your camera went out a couple of times too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I got you clear now. Yeah, so we're kind of losing connection, but I appreciate the time so much that you've spent with me, and spent with for the viewer out there that's concerned about what's going to happen moving forward. What's your outlook? I mean, are you thinking that you've always been a pretty positive outlook type of person, I would say?
Yeah, I am. It's just going to be different.
It's going to be different.
Different it's always bad.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
And so I think what it is, embrace it, because it's being 6 feet under. If you're alive and well, if you made roll call this morning, thank God. And so we're gonna be fine. We'll just move forward in a different way, but we are gonna move forward. Life will go on.
You always know how to inspire and motivate people.
Thanks.
Dr. Brockington, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you. It was great catching up with you.
Oh, you too, Joe. Thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it. You take good care and be safe out there.
We'll stay in touch.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.